Welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, it's been a while. I missed this. So we're back. I took a little bit of a break since I just changed jobs. But hey, welcome everybody that's tuned in before. And for anyone that doesn't know me, I'm Andres Moreno. I'm a principal software architect at Calent and here to try new things and try them with you. So happy to be here. What are we going to be doing today? So there was a recent announcement around serverless framework for the serverless container framework, which basically allows you to switch where you're running the container with a simple configuration. And this prompted me to rethink, hey, I haven't tried serverless framework in a while, right? So I think the last time I tried it was V2. So I want to take it for a spin and see what we can get done, right? So with serverless framework, we will be going through our standard framework assessment, right? The GPS coordinates. So if you've seen some of the previous assessments we've done or trying new things, we've created like a GPS coordinate capturing system that you can then present on a screen, right? Like points in a map, like Google Maps. So we're going to be going through that, and I'll share my screen just so you can see kind of our requirements. Let me do a little bit of a close-up. But yeah, this is our assessment that we go through, which includes an API. So we got CRUDL, right? Create, read, update, delete, and list. So we'll be going over creating that API, and then there is some sort of event-based requirement here where once there's a coordinate, we create a session, we then capture 10 coordinates. So here you are, right? So we're creating the CRUDL API, and then it captures some event-driven architecture to trigger events based on API events and data saves. A little bit of complex data structures to be able to load data and query data, and then real-time notifications, right? So this is via WebSockets. So obviously, well, not obviously, but we're going to be using AWS, basically provider. I don't know what you call it in serverless framework, but we're going to be generating AWS resources, which that means we're probably going to be using API Gateway for the WebSockets. But as we go through this, I'll be going through documentation, just the standard. The only thing I've set up is that I downloaded Serverless Framework. So if I go here to my little terminal, we can see, oh, let me close up. I don't forget about you anymore. There we go. So if we look at the version, we'll be able to see that we have version 4.6.2. So I just installed this yesterday. I did test a quick setup and deployment just to make everything, make sure everything works. But we're going to start from scratch, right? So I've already logged in to AWS. So what can I do? AWS S3 LS. What's the... Yeah, so you can see I have I'm hooked up to an AWS account of mine to be able to do all this and all these deployments. So going through the documentation, setup is very easy. And again, I did this yesterday, so you can install serverless. You can set it up to auto update. If you want to pin a specific version, you can do that. But then it's just, hey, you want to create something? Just run the serverless command. Fairly simple, right? Serverless. So here it's prompting, hey, what type of template do we want? So I know I'm going to be storing data points, and I'm going to be using an API. So I'm going to go with just this template that creates an Express API with DynamoDB. You can see all the other options. Just a Python, and I'm going to do Node.js. I'm not very good at Python, but you can see you can do HTTP, basically the same ones, but in the Python version. So instead of Express, there's Flask. With the DynamoDB, a scheduled task, a simple function. So I'll just go in here and create a project. So BIS project, it doesn't accept spaces, project, and it'll set that up. And I'll show how it looks like in Serverless Framework. So here you can see my test app that I created yesterday, which is here, right? I actually already deleted the resources from CloudFormation, so I'm just going to delete the app here. I wonder why. Yeah. So we're clean, and we're creating this new project. I want to create a new app called GPS coordinates. Well, that's not a good start. What happened? App name may contain only numbers, uppercase, lowercase, and underscores. Oh, I added a dash. So back to the steps. I wonder why I didn't do the same. Hey, you got an error, and let me fix it for the application name. 1 second. So yeah, we're going to create a new app, and this is going to be GPS coords. App names can only include. Let's just do like this. It's very picky on the. Oh gosh. Numbers. It's not liking something. So this is not a good start. This didn't happen earlier. So what to do? Let me open a new terminal. I don't know if there's something just wonky there. It's holding on to something. Let me get some music on. We're going to be feeding. Ziad, good to see you. Good to see you too, Austin. Okay, I'll let you know. So you can see I hit a little bit of a snag, Austin, but we'll see. Yeah, so something's being weird, but the other option here, we can do GPS. Oh, look at that. I think so. No uppercase. I think that's where I'm failing. App name may contain only numbers, uppercase letters. Let's see. One more try from here. The project. Create map, GPS, port. Yep. Okay. So figure it out. So it doesn't seem to accept uppercase letters, but I guess this error message is wrong because it says it does. It does allow uppercase letters, but hey, we made it. First step done. So now that we have this, so we don't have files directly here, but we can do cd. So created this folder, the project. From here, we can see we got a README, a handler.js, package.js, and the serverless gem, right? That's where the infrastructure's defined. So let me just open this so we can look at the files before we deploy. So serverless, you can see it's identified my org, the app name, the service, basically what we set as the project name. Table name, so it's doing users table, and the stage name. So if we provide a stage, it defaults to dev. Like I mentioned, we're doing AWS provider. We could update this to Node 22. since that's available now. And then we get the IAM role, right? So this Lambda function, and we'll see at the handler, but I'm assuming it's, since it's an Express API, everything will be contained within the same Lambda function. So this IAM role will contain all the permissions needed for us to be able to execute things against DynamoDB. And then we got the function. So we got one API function with a handler. So it's handler. And then I'm assuming there's, yeah, so handler. Where's the handler here? But here it is. It's just specifying where it is and what events. I'll have to look into what this is, but I'm assuming it's just, hey, you can do any HTTP API events. And then the resources, here's the user table. Just paper requests. We got user ID as the PK, basically, I'm assuming, yeah, so it's the hash. It's just a simple partition key, DynamoDB. And we're not going to go into details of DynamoDB. You can do a whole separate session just on DynamoDB, and I would love to do that. Okay, so the handler, like I mentioned, it's DynamoDB, but it's Express.js. Since that's the template we got, it's providing the table name as an environment variable based on what we saw in the serverless YAML, and creating the doc client. Okay, so all pretty straightforward. And we have two endpoints by default, which is the get. Obviously, we'll update these since we're not working with users, we're working with GPS coordinates. So we got get and we got post. Simple enough. The get is creating the parameters with a key, right? So passing in the partition key to then do a get item. So it's doing a get command. Simple enough. And then the post should be doing a put command. So pretty straightforward. Let's just get this deployed and moving forward. I lost the context that I had because I basically relaunched VS Code. But if I remember correctly, it was CD, and I'll have to log in to AWS again from the terminal. So let me do that. Don't steal my code. Cool. So with that, we're logged in, and now we need to do npm installs, and this will all be packaged up. It's using CloudFormation in the background. So the handler and the package lock and the package JSON will get bundled up together and sent to the Lambda service, right? To be able to execute your code. So we need that npm install. And then I believe it's just serverless deploy, right? Simple enough. It's authenticating. It's deploying to a stage of dev. It's retrieving CloudFormation. So yeah, I have this ready for us to look at CloudFormation. So we see here now it's deploying this, right? And we can see the fancy new timeline. Hey, sweet. So HTTP API is deployed, the stage is deployed. We have an API log group. Oh, that hover really gets in the way. Users table. So it's going through everything. It doesn't have the Lambda function yet, so it's creating that IAM role that we talked about that has basically everything for DynamoDB. Scan, query, we can reduce that to what we're actually going to be executing, right? Let's follow principle of least privilege whenever possible. So we'll edit that as we move forward. Let's see. Okay, now it's deploying the Lambda function. And if I actually open up the Lambda function, we'll see it's a small enough Lambda. So we'll see. This is where code structure and how you build things matters, because if you accidentally add more files, so let me go back to VS Code. If you add more files here at the root, they're going to get included in the Lambda function. So you probably don't want the README, the git ignore and all that, as we just saw over here. everything's included. So you'll see my structures usually have like the Lambda function in a specific folder with its own handler. And that's basically the artifact that gets deployed. And using ESBuild, there's several posts that I have around the ESBuild portion of this to bundle up all your dependencies into a single spot. And we can do a separate live stream on that one as well. But here, I usually like to see what gets deployed to see, okay, it's grabbing all of these files and deploying them in the Lambda function. So just to be careful what actually makes it there. So like we saw, there's all the endpoints here and everything is fine and dandy. So a cool thing here that it gives us, right? It's, hey, we have an endpoint here that we can start using. So let me copy this because obviously we haven't added any type of authentication here. So let me copy this URL and open up a Postman, new request. And if I remember correctly, we'll add a user. So if it's standard REST, this is what we would expect, but I'm going to verify looking at the code. Handler, we got get, and we got post users, and it's taking in a user ID and a name. Right, we can modify this to generate a GUID or whatever, but for now, let's just follow what's there. It's a post, params, body, raw, JSON. So we'll do our user ID. It's going to be 1, and we said name is Andres Moreno. It was name, right? Oh, that's not where I'm at. Name, yeah. So if I send this, it should work. Okay, we got a 200. And since I'm super close up, we can't see. So body, no. Here we are. So we got a 200 and it's responding with basically what I passed in. But if we were to look at the DynamoDB table that got created, so let's go to resources, users table. We should see a record here or an item. App Composer, Kawabunga, user table dev. Okay. Explore items. And here it is, user ID 1. So the second endpoint that we have is the get user by ID. So let's try that out. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to create a new request and provide a 1 as the path parameter. And we should just get, well, that exact same thing. Cool. If we pass in 2, it's probably a not found, and we couldn't find that. Cool. Yeah, I'm looking at the comment here. That's true, Austin. And that, I guess yesterday when I was just trying to make sure I could deploy, I did it lowercase. But yeah, that error message updating that would be super helpful to just do it lowercase. So yeah, it was pretty simple to get deployed. So because now the next step is kind of getting to my coding abilities, right? Because we want to get these endpoints, and I'll pop open the requirements here, right? So we want an API that implements this API spec. So we got sessions. With a post, it creates a new session, right? So let's start simple. So let's get that sessions, post, GPS tracking. So I'll get that endpoint. So I'm gonna get rid of I'm gonna comment it out just so I can reuse it in a bit. Missed the line. So here we're gonna do sessions. And then part of the requirement, and I'll open the README again, is that when a new session is created, it must store creation timestamp and then active status, then return an identifier, right? So now we're going to change that to generate the session ID. So let's do const session ID equals, it's not coming from the request body. What am I going to use? Let's use this ULID. So let me do npm install. Is it just ULID? I shouldn't just be installing random. ULID npm. Yeah, it's just ULID. So we will import ULID and then ULID.ULID. Cool. Simple enough. And I guess we'll follow this. This is using the require, so equals require ULID. And over here we'll do ULID.ULID. Const. Yeah, so it's a little bit different. I should have just gone with the common JS over here. ULID.ULID. Cool. So this gets us a session ID. We'll get a timestamp. So we'll remove this. And here we'll have to modify the table, but here we'll have session ID and then we'll have created timestamp. Yeah. Const created timestamp equals. Here we go. Beautiful. Command put command. So this should all work the same way. What I'm going to update now is over here. You probably can't update this just changing partition keys. So I'm going to create a new table, sessions table. I'm just going to name this PK. PK. PK, and we'll just Harpit name. We'll skip naming this. And then here, that's going to be an interesting one. How do I reference? So this is going to be, no, I don't want that connector. Sessions table, but we're not naming it. So how do you reference? How do we reference? Okay, I'll close this. CLI, upgrading concepts. Maybe we just Google. Reference resource in not Terraform, Serverless Framework. Using variable resolver. No, not custom resource. I don't want custom resource. Yeah, let's name the resource and skip the referencing. Because here it's using, I mean, I guess we could do, is it standard CloudFormation here? So for DynamoDB table, let's look at this to look at how to get the name out. Return values, so get at ARN, stream ARN, ref. So just the ref gives us the logical ID. No, the DynamoDB table name. So we can do something similar. Will this work? Where we're trying to reference in, where's the Lambda function? Here. So could this do ref, and then it will be, our resource is sessions table. We'll see. Yeah, okay, so can see from the initial table reference, give the table name in the stages parameter, use that in the CloudFormation table name, and use that as an environment variable. Yeah, I'm gonna try this just because I want to see if I can avoid naming the resource. But if this doesn't deploy correctly, we'll name this thing. It's not complaining yet. It's updating. So we'll want to see if the Lambda function actually gets, let me close this, configuration, environment variables, users table, so it's not finished yet. CloudFormation, update, just taking its good old time. Table view, it's still updating the Lambda function. Cool, Lambda function version. This should finish now. Cool. Let's refresh this. Look at me. Woohoo! So we referenced we got the name. And why, and again, I can talk about this another time, but why I don't like naming resources is if you're using temporary environments and a shared account or something, you would have naming collisions. And if you name it, you would then have to work in like a prefix or a suffix to then remove those naming collisions. And if you just let CloudFormation generate the name, you don't have to worry about those prefixes or suffixes. So here's the table name. If we go back here, we should see our sessions table. Cool. It's still not going to work because we haven't given it, we provided the environment variable, but we haven't given it the permissions. So here we're going to do something similar to what's already there, get add sessions table ARN, and we'll be able to, and again, we're going to use these in a bit, but yeah, following principle of least privilege, we'll just give it the put item. We won't need this users table anymore, so I'll just get rid of it. Bye-bye, user. And we got this. We got the environment variable for the Lambda function. I'm assuming these are like the equivalent of the globals in SAM in some way, because it's not specifically tied to the Lambda function. We'll see if we add a second one. If it includes all the environment variables, then it's the equivalent of globals. And let's do 22. We have our handler. We're creating this. We're doing put item, and then the table. So this will be PK equals session ID. Since we changed that, this will be sessions table command, and here we'll basically return. Let's just return the same thing, or well, we'll just return the ID, right? So ID, oh, not cat, session ID, and yeah, let's look at the spec, right? So we got our OpenAPI spec here. So the content is session. Let me visualize this. So let's go to Swagger editor. Swagger editor. I can't remember what the URL is. Yeah, here we are. Take advantage that we have some documentation in here. See my pet store, and we have the post. It takes in a name, right? So let's make sure we get that name. The response is a 201 with and this is the name is just a string. Okay, so we got the schema. We were missing one requirement here, and the request will come in with a name. How was the input? So here we'll have this, and we'll have a name. Random instance ID. Okay, so serverless framework variables offer random instance ID to give things random. That is different from the stage. Okay, so this is, but this is in the YAML, right, Austin? So you can define random strings within your infrastructure if you need that. Nice. Request.body.name. This work? I think we got everything. We got this. Got the name. Got this. Response JSON. Let's do response status 201. And I don't use Express that much, so I'm assuming this will work. And we will do I was going to do SAM deploy, but no, this is new. Serverless deploy. Packaging up. Updating CloudFormation. You know, I like to look at my little graph over here. I guess it's done. No, there it is. Lambda execution, since we updated the role. API Lambda function. So we should see a table disappear, right? Yeah, skip this. But we should see the session table get deleted unless it's protected. We'll check. Yeah, here it is, delete in progress. So we should see that too. I used to have a refresh up here. Users table dev should disappear. It's gone. We got a project table. I don't want to sign in. And deployment is done. Cool. So CloudFormation, are you done? We're done. So now we go back and let's do our endpoint. We're going to do sessions, and this just takes in a name, which we already have. So let's name our session Andres Moreno. Broken. So I want the other way around. So internal server error. So I messed something up. It's probably how I'm getting the request body. Look at that. We got a bug fix as we were talking. Thank you, Austin. So no one will see the error I saw. So I might edit that out and just that's great. Thank you, Austin. That's awesome to hear. Let's see. What was I going to do? Oh, I got distracted. We failed, right? So we got an error. Let's see what it is. Right now we're in standard AWS zone. So if you're new to AWS or you haven't worked with Lambda functions that much, this is cool to see, because how am I going to identify that error? I'm here in AWS in the Lambda function that got deployed. I'm going to go to view the CloudWatch logs. And we should see an execution here, right? And sessions table is not defined. So let's go back to our code. Sessions table. Because this, yeah, we need to do process.m because it's coming from the environment. So it's not just straight up. It's not a variable inside Okay, cool. So let's take a look here. There's serverless dev. Let's see what that does. Running dev session. It will run a deploy. Well, I kind of already fixed it, but let's see what exactly that does. So again, it's updating, change. So I'm hoping that just works. And we can go over here and look at what that does. The development session on the specified stage and region. This allows you to run, develop, and test your functions locally while they're being invoked, real-time, remotely on AWS. Okay, I love that. It establishes a long-running CLI session that connects directly to your Lambda function, waiting for devs to invoke them. Yes, I agree that it simplifies. Awesome. Okay. It's connected. So now, is it the same URL? Yeah, 73J. So now, what Austin's saying is when we call this API, it will get redirected to your local code instead of. Nice. Okay, so let's see if this just works. Multiple credential sources. So please ensure that your environment only sets either a profile. Okay, it should have the profile. Let's see. How do I exit? So we'll try it again. Because no, AWS profile is and more. Yeah, so it's set to my profile, but I'm using SSO. And the pair, does it require access key and secret key to be set on the config file or the credentials file for this to work? I'm assuming that might be the why. But did we stop this session? No, there we go. Deploy serverless deploy immediately upon close. Don't forget to run serverless. Okay. I think let's just try it. What did I do? Is this okay? You need to redeploy. Okay, I see what it's doing. So it's actually deploying, and it's probably opening up some sort of connection with your local machine to trigger that, which is pretty clever. But I lost my. Too close up. I'm gonna back off a little bit. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna run the serverless deploy again while I read up on this serverless dev. Read okay, AWS profile that you want to use. So it should be taking the one in the environment. How it works? Environment serverless dev. I'll give it a try after this. This deploy works. I'm assuming it has something to do with me using SSO, not having like the long-lived credentials on the credentials file. Let's give it a second. So while this is going, we can start doing, okay, so we're doing the creation. We will need to then, data points must be added to a valid session and active. Okay, so we forgot one point here, which is the active. I'm going to break this JSON up. Yeah, that's the error, Austin. It's seeing two sets of credentials. So I'll see if it's specifying the. 1 second. Let me just get active. Sure. Okay, so that deployment. Let's just see if this works. And we get but now let's do serverless dev profile and more dev sandbox. Was that the and more? It's just and more. So maybe, yeah, so here, unrecognized option profile. Okay, I don't even know how to follow instructions anymore. Serverless AWS profile. Golly. Okay, close. AWS profile. Okay, so while that's going, let's look at the database, right? So did we get the new session in here? And it's got the session. We actually got 2. 3 minutes apart. So, yeah. I guess it did trigger the first one, but it just couldn't link it back to me, which is why this is probably here. But with that latest deployment, we should get the active. But let's see, hopefully serverless dev works because I'm excited for that feature. Okay, so it's connected. Let's trigger. Yeah, multiple credential sources detected. Both AWS and the pair are set. I'm not sure where it's getting these because I don't have. Okay, it's using this. So it used the correct one, which is why we should probably see a third one here. Yeah, so it is working. You can see it got that created. So if I were to make a change, is it listening here? So let's just add random attribute. Hello, and save. Does it trigger an update automatically? Oh, I guess it's hitting my local. So, yeah, this is mind-blowing a little bit. It's confusing, but let's see. We got 2. Okay, so we see this. It's giving us this warning. So it's not preventing. I just freaked out because it's red. And we should see that random attribute now. Okay, that's nice. So that makes it a lot faster because it's just hitting my local. I like that. Yeah, I am associated with the Lambda to use the true role in production. So yeah, there's something that it's doing. So it's injecting serverless framework is injecting these keys, right? Because I don't have these static keys. So it's probably getting them from my session and applying them. But nice. This is pretty cool. So now I just want to create a new one. Okay, so let's change this session ID. We'll copy this. Yeah, I see. We don't need this anymore. And the key is going to be PK equals this session ID from the, and I can comment this, but give me a second. Okay, so process session stable, it's going to get it based on the session ID provided. It's going to do a get command. And here we'll have session or ID equals the PK. We'll have name and we'll have active. We don't want the random attribute and the created timestamp. Created timestamp. All right, let's just, I want to see that iteration without having to deploy because that will be very, very nice. So I'm just going to copy the const. Okay, so this is extracting everything. I see. So now here is where I'm going to do a similar thing. Boom. So we'll have ID will be the value of this, name, active, created. If it's not found, we get a 404, cannot find session with provided session ID. Okay, moment of truth. So sessions, now we're gonna do session. Let's just get the 404. Woo, nice. Okay, we got that 404. We saw the logs, right? So we can see that it actually got hit. And let me get an ID here. So we can test that. And I can just parameterize this session ID. It's not a query path parameter. Yeah, so here we can send this. Not found. That might be a my coding issue. So we have the command, we have PK, it's the session ID. And if I had like console logs, does that? Yeah, let's log this. Will I get them? Well, not this one. Sound. Okay, I thought I might get the console, the logs here. If I go back to CloudFormation, and let's go to the latest execution, we'll see dev heartbeat. Well, I guess it's running, it's executing locally. So I wonder how I would get that. Boom, 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 boom. I guess this is the log. This. 1 sec. No. Okay. I'm assuming. And is it? It is PK, right? On my database table, we got the PK. So why does it seem like it's not finding it? Sessions table, key, request param, session ID. Yeah, that seems like the correct one. Ah, I see. Session ID. Good riddance. Those little hidden, not typos, but missed information. So send, and this is not the correct one. It's this one. We want to get this session ID, which is here. Come on, you can do it. Because this should exist. Maybe I'm messing up. Query partition key. No, not the whole thing. Why are you not liking it? Session ID, session ID, session ID. This is interesting, but so Austin, if you're still here, is there a way to pump out the logs, the console logs that I'm putting in the terminal or somewhere to hook up? Oh, maybe it's just not there. Good idea, Islam. Let's see. Let's do this. And maybe it does do it automatically. It's just me trying to log something that doesn't really exist. Okay, so we're here. No. I just do random text. Come on, send. Yeah, so it doesn't seem to be logging here. But yeah. So let's see, maybe deploying, because maybe it's not hitting DynamoDB. But it did create stuff. And it might be it's not bubbling up. So remember, security is always getting me. We did this. I don't know if that should affect anything, but if we update this, we might need to redeploy, but let's see. And I'll turn off this session and do serverless deploy for now. Okay, so logs should be streaming in. We'll see. That's what I expected, but maybe something's failing before it can actually even go there. So I'm just going to try the full deployment here and see if we can get that endpoint. As that's getting built in, I'll just get ahead and let's do get sessions and let's do data point, right? So it's kind of one of the requirements. But you can see after you got that deployment, it seems like it's pretty standard coding. That dev session, that's pretty cool. I don't know that existed. Let's do point. So we'll post here. Session ID will come from request. Request param session ID. And then let's just keep it simple. All right, so point. That's not going to work. So we'll need a point ID. Const point. Look at that. Thank you, AI. So we'll do point ID here. That's the PK. Create a timestamp. Let's just keep it simple right now. The cloud and another terminal. Serverless logs. Okay, so doing multi-terminal would also be beneficial there, right? So you can stream the logs. So there's this specific command called serverless logs, and you specify the function, and it'll allow. I'm assuming the T is for tail, so you can tail the logs and just keep looking for them. So okay, this is deployed. So now let's try it against. Yep, Adam. CloudWatch, so we should have a new thing here. Init. Yeah, it's not logging. Why is it not logging? We're here. Console log. Does it do a different logger? Because here, rec body name, it's a request. Why is and this made it to my Lambda function, right? Handler to, okay, we have it up here. Console log random text. This is weird. This never happened to me. Let's cause some drift. It's good that I don't know how to deploy anymore. Publish new version. I don't want a new version. They moved my deploy button. Oh. Cool. Okay, so it's nice. Okay. Your code was updated outside of the internet. Accept. Detected some changes. Let's do this. Deploy. Deployment successful. So now let's just try this. Here, send 404. CloudWatch 5. Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't seem to be serverless framework issue, more so. I don't know why it's not even logging. And Tamaz, okay. Okay, I see. You know, those little things are the ones that get you. So let's see over here. Session and send. Success. Yep, so it was quite a dumb thing that happens way too often. Cool. Last thing I want to try, since I'm running out of time. So this is nice. So I got a good sense of what all this is doing. What I wanted to see is, so here's my function. So we have the API. So I want to look at see how simple it would be. Container. And again, I didn't look at any of this before, so maybe it's just completely not defined correctly. Yeah, so we would need to change this to containers. The source routing. So it changes quite a bit for what is currently set up because it's using a whole different serverless resource. Yep, it's you said it. It's just a typo. Really, really unfortunate typo right there. So things that happen, right? So now when you're troubleshooting, remember to look at the path of the endpoint and check that it's correct. Because the 404 we were getting was from AWS saying, hey, this endpoint doesn't exist. Versus the 404 that we are setting where, hey, I didn't find the session. So rather interesting thing. But yeah, I want to call out, and I am going to try this out, the being able to flip between a Lambda function and FAR ECS. Since that's a very common scenario you might find yourself in, where you're running a Lambda function, then you start processing files within the Lambda function, and then it's not enough. You're either running out of time or it's getting super expensive because it's something that takes 30 seconds to run, right? So being able to easily flip that in your configuration is super valuable. But it will require quite a bit of changing for us to get into kind of that container framework and get that Lambda function in there. So something to try for next time. But kind of wrapping it up right now, we were able to see basically start from scratch, right? So just by typing serverless in our terminal, selecting a template, we were able to get an API, right? So once that was created, we just install the dependencies and run serverless deploy, and it gets it deployed in the cloud. Obviously, you need to be authenticated with AWS to run that, but you can kind of tie it back to the simplicity you would have in your CI/CD pipelines and GitHub, right? So you can authenticate with OIDC, just run serverless deploy. It's using your account, your CloudFormation, and deploying it there. Because that could be fuzzy with like something like Amped, where it deploys on that cloud, right? It's you're not in control of those resources. So there's that. Thanks to Austin, we did not discover, but he showed us the serverless dev feature, which is pretty awesome. So basically what that's doing, it's deploying a different version of your infrastructure, but instead of hitting your Lambda function, it's routing it back to your local code, right? So if you have an endpoint, you can trigger it and it's going to hit your code. So therefore you can just make any type of changes without having to do any type of deploy. It'll hit that code, so you can verify that. A lot more to unpack there, right? So if there's like one of the issues I thought it was before we knew it was the typo was, hey, maybe it's the permission. So I'm not sure how the permissions for that lamp or what it's running is doing. So maybe you might get like the functionality and test that functionality, but you might not be able to test like the the function execution rule. So thanks a little bit more to unpack on that. And as Austin said, the logs should be streamed in that open session that you have running. So that's pretty cool. So this is pretty awesome, right? It's again, I hadn't tried it since version 2, so quite a few things have changed, and it seems pretty straightforward to run with it. Obviously, I'm on the free tier, so a thing to consider, right? If you're bringing this to your company, I mean, the nice thing is pay as you go, but pay special attention to where your organization falls, right? As far as how you're going to be priced. But for me, I'm rarely making more than 2 cents off of my personal projects. So this is definitely a way you could speed up any API creation and something like that. So thank you everybody that joined. Super happy to be back on my live stream. So I'm going to try and stick to a 2-week cadence. So we'll see what interesting thing we come up with to try out in 2 weeks. So thank you everybody. If you have any questions or you have any idea and you want to jump on the live stream, let me know. I'll be happy to have you here and knock out some code. So thank you everybody. Have a great one.